Nathan Stobbs is a London-based VFX artist specializing in compositing, currently working at VFX studio REALTIME. Since he first experimented with stop-motion animation and became fascinated by visual effects in movies, Nathan has been interested in this area. He enrolled in a VFX course at university in London, where he helped with a number of projects of film students that even won several awards. In his last year at school, he entered the field early and began developing his compositing abilities in the VFX industry. When the global pandemic struck, he joined a software development company and started working as a software tester. After the industry recovered, he moved back to the compositing world and returned to what he enjoyed the most, working as a compositing artist. As we go into greater detail about Nathan's experience at university, he tells some interesting stories about what inspired him to concentrate on compositing and how he got his first VFX job. Listen to this episode to learn more about some commonly used VFX software, learn about the various VFX disciplines, and get some helpful advice for aspiring artists and filmmakers. Enjoy! Hello Nathan, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Nathan, can you please try to introduce yourself?
So I'm Nathan Stobbs, been a compositor in London, been working in the VFX industry for I think 4 years now, 2 years in an engineer role at Foundry as a QA, did some testing for them, and now I've been comping 2 years, worked at NPC, and I'm currently working at REALTIME right now.
So before we move on, can we try to explain some terms that you just mentioned for someone who doesn't know anything about VFX? What is it compositing? What does the compositor do?
Compositor, essentially, the last person in the factory line of making and crafting a VFX shot. So they're the person who is getting different elements, renders, stock footage, and combining at the end and really, bringing the realism into any VFX shot. And it's not just, combining, we do paint work as well. We might be doing some roto sometimes, like on the prep side. But yeah, it's definitely just that combination generating that final image, what compositing mainly relies on.
So is it right at the end of the pipeline or is it one of the last ones?
It's definitely right at the end. Comp is one of those things where it always happens at the end because you always have to, do the final touches at the end. But comp can begin at different stages in the production. So you can use comp for testing things out, which is with a slap comping. The slap comping is just when you do like a really rough comp or like a rough edit, essentially just to find out about timings and scale and proportions before you spend the actual time. So comp is always at the end, generally speaking, but it also happens at different points in production as well.
Yeah. And I think you also mentioned roto. What does it mean?
So rotoscoping is essentially the task of going frame by frame and masking out elements, people, objects, props, whatever needs to be rotoed so that you can extract it from that footage and use it as an element for your final composite, really.
So is that something you also do?
I do a little bit. When I started in the industry, I did a lot of my first job back when I was still studying at university. I was a roto and paint artist essentially for a couple of weeks at this company. So I did a little bit then, but I think as you get more into the compositing role, your roto comes up every now and then. A lot of compositors now, they roto have done it before in their career, but you do it less and less as you go through the industry, really. Now I kind of spend most of my time assembling shots than doing roto and prep. Don't really do much roto and prep anymore these days.
Roto sounds quite like a job where you need to be very patient.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you put a podcast on or you put some TV on in the background and you just tank it out because it takes, sometimes it can be quick, sometimes it can be, really time consuming. It depends. If you've got hair, cloth, clothes, like really complicated shapes, it's definitely going to take a while. But if it's just something simple and non deforming shapes, it can be really quick, but it depends.
Mm-hmm. And couldn't you somehow select it by default, or you need to make sure to do it manually so that it's more precise?
It's one of those things, you got to be very precise. What I would recommend to anyone who's going into rotoscoping or does rotoscoping is, you have to watch the whole footage forward and back over and over and over and over again until you start recognizing different shapes that you can use inside of the object, props, or person that you want to remove, instead of just kind of going for it and like putting a shape down. Because the last thing you want is, because essentially what you use to do rotoscoping is you're making these things called splines. So, when you kind of make a point, you make 3 or 4 points and you have a shape. So you don't want to do the thing where you're making a shape to rotate someone and you've just put a bunch of splines and points across the whole person as the outline.
Yeah.
Because you'll quickly realize that it's incredibly hard to control and just painful. It's just completely painful. But if you make these small, simple objects within a complicated object, it's a lot easier to control and simpler to rotate as well. You won't be trying to go every frame and fix it. You need to go to the frames where it moves really. But it's a very manual process. But I'm hoping with AI becoming more and more prevalent in these day and age, that AI can take away rotoscope and just get rid of it, because no one wants to do it anymore.
People are not really excited about doing this job.
Nah, rotoscoping is one of those jobs that is just never... And there's people out there that do enjoy it, but I'm not one of those people. I get really bored quickly. I can roto for a week and then I start losing my sanity, really. But everyone else is different. Some people can roto for months, and some people do just roto for years, and that's, all they do is roto. But yeah, not me. I'm not built for that.
Yeah, honestly, I cannot blame you. I think I wouldn't be able to do that either.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you say on average how long you can manage, like let's say in a day, I don't know, a few minutes of footage or seconds? I know it depends on how difficult the scene is, but can you maybe give some examples?
Yeah, so there's been programs that I worked on back when I was a junior compositor, where it was, 4 people, and it's a simple shot. They were just walking down this field. And essentially what we had to do was comp in like a little airport, but like a little rundown, not like a proper fancy airport, more of like a garage airport, if that makes sense, like a little kind of rundown one. And we had these 4 characters just walking down, and I think it was only 100 to 160 frames long. And that essentially took me a week, because, you got bag straps that they're wearing, so you got these things ringing about, you got to get them walking, so you got to do the shapes for the legs and stuff, motion blur got to look after. But, it's one of those things is it is complicated, not complicated, it's simple, but it is time consuming. But really, when I wrote it as well, I try to see if there's areas that I can use to save time. So sometimes what I use is a keyer. What a keyer is, it's a way to extract a mask from luminance values of your plate. So for example, if you have your hand over the sky and the sky is white and your hand is pretty silhouetted in the dark, you can just use a keyer to get that hand instead of having to rotate the hand. So it was one of those things where you got to be like clever with it, trying to find areas that you can do to like save time. But this is more for TV. I think if you're working on feature films, there'll be a lot more precise and more time for that. So for me, it took me like a week to rotate this. What was like 160 frames.
Sorry, how many seconds is it then?
160 frames, that would be 8 to 12 seconds shot. So nothing crazy, but it still takes a while.
Yeah, it's good to get an idea how time consuming it is and how patient you need to be.
Yeah, but that's why I'm hoping for AI to just take that job away. People have been making good progress on that, so I'm really excited to see that kind of improve and then take over as like the industry standard, hopefully one day.
Yeah. So is VFX something that you've always been interested in?
Yeah, very much. I started looking into VFX when I was, I think 13, 14. I used to, well, not VFX, but just like video and like post-production in general, like editing and that kind of stuff. When I was a kid, I used to make the Lego stock action movies where you would literally just get Legos, take a photo, and you had them walking across the screen and stuff.
Would it be like stop motion?
Yeah, stop motion, just doing that when I was a kid. And then, 15, I think I started learning After Effects, and I started doing like my first VFX shots, like watching tutorials online. And then when I became, I think like 16, 17, I started learning Nuke, and that's when I decided, I want to go and get a degree in VFX. That's kind of how my interest for it kind of started. It was like playing around with stuff and just kind of realizing, I actually really enjoy this, to be fair. And then realizing there's a massive career in it. I was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Were there any influential films when you were young and maybe you thought this VFX looks incredible? Or any particular films that inspired you?
There's one film that I really liked. I think everyone's going to say this as well. What was Inception? Like when you see the calf kind of blowing up and you see these like debris like floating in the air, and then you had this scene of the city folding in half. Because back then when I was really young as well, when I was kind of getting into this, I'd watch this stuff and I'd be like, I have no idea how you do that. Like, no idea. So I was kind of really like fascinated by it. But as you grow up as well, and you work in the industry, like this whole magical illusion of how VFX work kind of disappears, because now you can see all the cracks, you know, oh, he's done this, he's modeled it, it's CG, you know. But yeah, it was definitely Inception, because I just thought, you know, I was really stunned with the work they produced in that film.
Does it still remain one of your favorite or the biggest VFX in films, or do you have any other favorite now? Or maybe one that is in your mind for some particular reason?
Yeah, I mean, now that I've gotten older, I kind of prefer watching older films, like the early 2000s and like the 90s. Just because the way they film it and the VFX is way different. It's less the illusion breaking for me, even though it's like the CG so bad back in the 90s. But I would enjoy watching things like The Matrix as well. Like, that's a really good film. It is an old film. It's a little bit dated, but it was one of those films that you watch it and it's like these eras where they were starting to push the boundaries on VFX. And the bullish dodge effect as well. That was literally like, what was it? Like 50 or 60 cameras put around in a circle. Yeah. So it's one of those films that has got a great story and meaning behind it, and then push the boundaries of VFX as well.
I agree. Yeah. Considering the time when it was made, it was impressive. I cannot imagine at that time watching that in a cinema. It would be super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where back when I first watched The Matrix, it's like, how did they do that? I have no idea until you watch the behind the scenes and they really show you how they do it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
So coming back to your education, did you study VFX at university?
Yeah, so I studied Middlesex University for 3 years. I don't know why I picked that uni. It was such a... I remember because I went to the open days at university, like, you know, when you go browsing and you're looking for what you want to study. I remember when I went to the open day at Middlesex and I just met, there was pretty much no one there for the course, just the lecturer. And I remember I sat down with him and I was just like, oh, okay, so, you know, what's the reason to study here? And he just gave me the tour of the uni. I saw a massive mocap green room, and then I saw the workstations, and it was all like, you know, he's never ran a year of this course yet. Yeah, we were like the guinea pigs of Middlesex for this VFX course. Thought, yeah, I'll go try it out. And yeah, it was really good.
So how come was it that there was no VFX before? They wasn't as popular, or do you know what was the reason?
VFX is one of those weird degrees or courses to study. I think when you finish your GCSEs or you come out of college, you finish school, and you want to go into this kind of industry or VFX, you know, you look into it and you quickly realize that you don't need a degree. Like, a degree doesn't really do anything for this industry. And that's just like, I don't know, you want to go into like software engineering into VFX, then yeah, you will need a computer science degree. But for artists, it doesn't really matter at all. So I think a lot of artists are self-taught and get into the industry that way. And there's not many courses that just do VFX. There's some places that might do like animation, or some places, I think it was Staffordshire, they do like, you know, VFX games and also do like concept art and stuff like that. But yeah, there's not many universities in the UK that study VFX really, and also have the tools and facilities to like actually train properly, because there's one thing about having a course in the program, but it's more important that the students have access to tools that they need to build and develop and to learn with on-hand experience. That's why I kind of picked Middlesex, because it's got the green screen room, the mocap, massive equipment rental. Like I used to rent out C300s, those Canon cinema cameras, just for random projects. And this was like 4K footage, that 10-bit color, just for a random project that's brought about in the afternoon. So it was great to have that access to tools kind of thing.
Yeah. And did you also get to try like a green room and the mocap, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I didn't do much mocap stuff because I'm comp. My approach is always 2D. I try to think in a 2D way, but I do a lot of 3D. But I was there for recording sessions in the mocap studio. But we did film quite a bit of footage on the green screen room, and also kind of just like more learn as well about how to be hands-on in the VFX production as like in a technical assistant way, where setting up the green screen, lighting, getting the room ready and prepping it, and also in a kind of vision way as well, where if someone's filming a project on a green screen, that I can have a look, come in, step in, and kind of correct issues before they start happening. That I can see issues that are going to be like, okay, well, we can do this, we can do X, Y, Z, but that's going to be a problem later down the pipeline when I'm actually working on this and how to deliver. So it was good for learning stuff like that, and also getting footage to practice with.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned before, that not everyone needs to, or basically that you don't have to really study it at university because you can self-learn. What was the reason for you to actually study it and don't just learn it by yourself and apply for a position?
I think the main thing for me is that at the time I was 18 or 17, and if I told myself, oh, I'm going to study to get into this industry by myself at home, yeah, I could have done that, but I also could have just sat there and played video games for 4 years and not got anything done. For me, that I needed like assignments, like tasks and deadlines. And I also wanted to be able to network with people who are like me, because VFX is a team sport industry. Like you can do amazing work by yourself, but it's not always about, you know, being the best by yourself. It's also about trying to be the best in one category and then having someone else who's really good in another category. So you both just focus in your own kind of department. So it was really important for me to come to university and network with other students, work on projects with people, instead of just kind of like working on projects by myself. And the equipment as well. The equipment was super important as well. And we had really supportive lecturers as well during our time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So then how did you actually find the course itself? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was hard for me, but the course was really like oriented around being like a 3D artist. But when I came to the university, I already knew that I was really into comp, just doing comp and type stuff and 2D stuff. So it was a bit hard at first because it was like very 3D focused, like a lot of here's Maya, here's modeling, here's how you render, and here's how you do that really. And yeah, so that was fine for a bit. But then I think in second year, the lecturer kind of basically said, hey, you guys can get extra credit for working on other people's projects. So the film course would come to us and be like, hey, we're doing, you know, X thing with our production. Can we get like a VFX person in? And I was just kind of happy to take on those projects and supervise it, you know, help with recording, be there on the set, and then do the VFX. So that was kind of when the fun part of the degree really kicked in, was doing all of those projects.
So was it in the second year or in the third year?
It was in the second year. In the first year, I didn't really do that much. I think in first year as well, I wasn't allowed to use Nuke at that point. I had to only use After Effects. But for some reason, I was learning like a new software in first year, and kind of getting used to the whole, you know, moving out and just being an adult, you know what I mean? Just stuff like that.
So can you say more about what VFX did you do for those film students?
Yeah, so I did quite a few things. I think the first thing we did, or the first project I helped out on, was a short film called Haircut. It's essentially a short film that's based on the idea of kind of like this guy kind of, you know, leaves his bag in a barbershop. There was money and a gun in there, essentially. And then the owner of the barbershop gets rid of it because he doesn't want to be bringing that attention around. You know, when the guy comes back later, he's upset that the bag's gone and, like, you know, heist the whole barbershop, essentially. So we had a bunch of paint out work that we had to do for that. So that was just, you know, removing tracker markers, doing roto, and then making sure our edge details were fine when, you know, you have a tracker marker, and then, the person walks over the grave and everything. So that was kind of the first thing we did. It was a couple of shots, and like also adding in TV elements, 'cause that's really common in VFX as well, just adding in screens. So started off by doing that short film. I think the next project I worked on after that was a third year's like music video final project. And for that, we had this shot where you wanted it to look like it was falling down a well and have these like Arabic letters surrounding them and stuff like that. For that one, that was pretty funny actually, because we did there's a lot of facilities at Middlesex. So we were planning on shooting the actor on a green screen and then make it look like it was falling like that. And then we were like, no, let's have some fun with it. So we went to the engineering department below, and they have like a LiDAR scanner that we were able to like scan the actor. So we had a digital head of the actor, and then we essentially made a digidouble of the actor, like a 3D version, and then we animated him 3D, and then we just made the whole scene in CG. And then I kind of came in, did the compositing, pretty much supervised that project and just looked after it. And then we also had some other 2D shots where we had actual footage of this jail, like in a jail. And then we also had another footage of a guard who was on a green screen. And essentially what we did is we had 2 different camera movements, because we had a camera movement on the green screen. And then we wanted to go through the green screen plate into the next shot, because there was like we had like a covering CG door as well in the middle. So we had this one shot where we had to ditch 2 different camera movements together so we could build one coherent shot at the end. So that was a pretty hard project to work on. And after that, we worked on, in third year of university, we were doing just back to short films again. So I worked on Last Breath of Winter, I think it's called. We worked in this short film, which was essentially a knife gore and then a lot of paint out and stuff like that. And I actually won an award when I left university for best VFX. We were at the BFI Avid graduation show, and luckily that project, won best VFX. I won a lot. We won best color, best VFX, best cinematography. I can't remember. There's a lot of awards we won.
Quite successful film.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a lot of work.
Was it only you assigned to that film, or was it more people from VFX working on that one particular film?
So generally when I was working, I was a 2D person and like supervising and dealing with the clients. But I had a friend, James, who was my 3D person. So James would always, be there on set with me. We would plan the projects together, and he would also help me dealing with the clients. Because there's, when you're doing any kind of VFX, there's one thing about kind of like doing the VFX, and there's another world of managing expectations, finding out what clients truly want, assigning work how, and breaking down actually you're gonna complete this bulk of work really in a time frame that's given to you as well.
Yeah,
we had James who's come do the 3D stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like a good experience. So considering that you are still students and you worked on these projects of film students in second and third year, looking at those projects, does the VFX look like it's made by students, or does it actually look like on a good level that you don't really notice that it's VFX, if you know what I mean?
VFX students. This is the thing with it. At the time, this is us learning VFX by working on these projects. But don't get me wrong, there's some shots that pass, you would not tell it was a VFX shot. So we had some shots where we would just paint, anytime it was like paint, fix and stuff like that, I don't think people could tell at all. Like when it comes to paint work, people could not tell it was painted or not. We were really good at getting that. We were trying to push the boundaries. We didn't have many of it, but we had a couple of like heavy VFX shots where it was like the CG door, the guard, or the guy falling down the well, and then being at digidouble. We didn't know so much. And really, when you're studying the technical ability. So we're learning how do we like render this out, and then how do we light it? How do we control it after we render with like AOVs, what is essentially like these render passes that a compositor can then turn the brightness of a light up and down, or make the skin more reflective, or reduce it. So at that point, we were really trying to learn our technical ability. Our creative eye, we were kind of building at, but at that time, obviously our creative eye wasn't built yet. So we're still learning like how to use the tools. But then really when I went and started working in the industry, that's where I learned how things should look. Like that's when my eye of things started to build really.
Yeah, it sounds like a great experience and good to work with the film career. And what was the final year project in the third year?
This is the thing, because I was working on so many film projects, I didn't really spend much time on my final major project. I did a simple seasonal change. So I had a shot that was using equipment from the loan store from Middlesex, and essentially just recorded the front of the university, and I just converted it from sunny to winter. So there was just snow everywhere, it was snowing, and it was essentially just learning how to manipulate footage like that in the sense of taking it from summer to winter. And then also looking at different parts of the compositing software that I use called Nuke. And there's more understanding, how do I use a particle system and stuff like this? And how can I cheat a little bit in Nuke kind of thing. So yeah, it was a really simple project, but it was still like just more of learning how to use Nuke in a different way essentially.
And you said before that you used Nuke already before you started at uni, right?
Yeah.
Was it then coincidence that it was being used at uni as well, if it was being used?
Kind of. So when I was 16 or 17, essentially what happened is I was like, cool, I want to do VFX. It's fun. And also I need to get more information about it. So I was doing a bunch of Googling. At this time, I used to only use After Effects. At that point, I was like using After Effects for a couple of years now. And basically, one of my friends, when I was like looking at unis and stuff, said, hey, why don't you just email a bunch of companies asking to be like a runner? So I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Just to get my foot in the door and to like understand the industry a bit better. In reality, most VFX companies don't hire runners that are 16 or live far away from London, because I wasn't living in London at the time, I was living in Bedford. So I didn't get any work back from all those emails that I sent. But one studio called Territorial Studio, and the founder essentially messaged back saying, hey, look, we don't want your work, but why don't you come down and have a chat about, just VFX, and I can help you out and stuff. So at this young age, I got a day off school, went into London, and then met the founder of this company.
Just a quick one. If you enjoy our podcast, please give us a review on your favorite podcast app, subscribe, or share it with your friends. For more information, visit the show notes. Thank you, and back to the show.
Yeah, so we went into central London to go to Territory Studios. I met the founder, but he was a super nice guy. Essentially, I was running the company at the time. And, he just sat me down. We just chatted for a couple of hours. And back then, I was kind of explaining to, what type of things I enjoyed doing in VFX, because I was just kind of started. I was learning Maya at home as well, but not Nuke. And essentially what he was telling me, if you want to go into VFX and more of a compositing role, he was telling me, why don't you just go and start looking at Nuke? And he was telling me, Nuke's a really good software. And that kind of sparked the whole interest of Nuke really. So like literally the same day I got home, downloaded Nuke, and I started learning Nuke at that age, essentially. That's kind of how it started for me.
Is Nuke free software?
Kind of.
Because I know there is one that is free, but it's probably Blender.
Blender is completely free. The thing is in VFX, is like, you can get access to the software for free, but it's generally, the main thing is the licensing of the software. So some software is what we call a non-commercial version. It means it's completely free, but it's non-commercial, so you can't do any paid work on it. You can just, do personal work, and that's completely fine. Where Blender is like open source, so it's free. You can do your work on it, and you can get paid using it, and it's completely fine. Where Nuke's on the other side of that, where there's a non-commercial version, so you can use Nuke completely for free. You can learn Nuke that way. But if you want to do commercial work, or if you want to render in 4K or something like that, then you're going to have to pay for Nuke. But it's not too expensive. But honestly, if you're learning Nuke and you still render everything on 1080p, I would just use Nuke non-commercial because it's free and it's really good.
But the story you mentioned before that the founder met with, it was very nice from him. Why do you think he did that for you, since he didn't know you?
I don't know. I think it was more because he said he's done that a couple of times where you just talk to people about it. I think really what it was just trying to like encourage more people into the industry. I don't know if he would still do that now. I'm following the studio on LinkedIn and stuff, and I see it's grown a lot more compared where it was when I went to visit it. But yeah, I think it's one of those things of just trying to get people into VFX because it is one of those industries where it's a massive industry. It has so much, the market size value, also the market value of VFX is pretty huge. But it's getting to a point now in this industry as well where we're just having a talent shortage as well. There's not enough artists right now compared to the work that's out there. So I kind of think that was kind of part of it, just trying to get more people into the industry, really.
So after you finished uni, how did you plan your way into the industry?
I was really lucky, to be honest, when I was studying. So when I was finishing up on The Last Breath of Winter, that was a short film I was working on. So when I was finishing up on The Last Breath of Winter, I was in the animation studio in Middlesex, and a friend of James was there. And I remember I was so like, it was on the shot, I was like, this is not working. I hate this shot. And we just wanted to send it off and be done with it. So we got James's mate, who I barely know at the time, to come over and to have a look at it. And she came over, had a look at it, and she was like, I can't even tell what you've done. And I was like, oh, okay, great. That means my work's done. So we were just like, all right, should we go to the pub? So we ended up going to the pub, and just through networking, I found out she was working at a company. And she just referred me for networking, just said, hey, told a boss about me, said, hey, are you looking for a compositor? And that's how I got my first gig. So I was still studying at university, and I got a message from the studio on a Saturday saying, hey, can you send me a demo reel? And then the Sunday, the next day, I got told, hey, can you come in this Monday for 2 weeks? And yeah, I told my lecturers, hey, I'm not going to be coming up to class for 2 weeks, but don't worry, I'll be fine. And then that's kind of it. I just started working at that point.
Wow, that sounds like many of us can, be jealous of. It sounds like a great start.
Yeah, it was a really, because I know a lot of people in VFX have had those like applying for like years or a long time just to get their foot in the door. So it was really lucky for me to just be recommended a job into my first job. And, I was a freelancer at the time, but I completed the 2 weeks of work. And then they kept calling me back as a student. They kept saying, hey, come back, let's do some more. And they gave me another week's worth of work a month later. And then I remember this as well. So when I was about to move out of London to move back to Bedford for a bit, on the night that I was moving out, I got a message from him saying, hey, can you just work for like another month straight? And then I started, thought I was only going to be working for a month. And then we were just on like a rolling contract for, I think it was just over a year. 1 month of work just turned into a year with me being there, working on projects, coming in every day and just, cracking on with it, really.
And was it working that you had to come there physically to the office, or was it working after your time at uni, like at home?
So it was in the office. So yeah, I was in the office with other artists, just kind of cracking on with it, really. That's why I had to tell my lecturers, hey, look, I'm not going to be in class for 2 weeks because I need to go into central London to work. But yeah, it was a great experience though. It was a great small team. It's an amazing work there, I feel like, at the start of my career. And definitely started realising, okay, this is how VFX works. This is how people get a lot of stuff done in a small amount of time, kind of thing. And it was good as well because, back then I was a poor student. So I used to work like this side job where I used to do like event security, like a steward essentially. And it was so good to be like, okay, I can work 1 week just like every now and then. And I was earning a lot more money than working that other job. So when I started working in the office, I just literally just quit my job straight away. I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And that was a really great feeling.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds amazing. You get paid well. It's experience in area that you want to work in.
Exactly, yeah.
Already working on your career. And can you say what company was it?
It was called The Brewery. So it's a small company in Leicester Square, and they generally just do VFX and animation. So they do a bunch of projects. When I was there, I worked on Netflix shows, I worked on Amazon Prime shows, worked on shows for the BBC, and 2 films as well, and on the ITV as well. So we worked on a lot of projects together there for a really small period of time. since I've been at MPC in real time, it's, way different. Like, I work on one project for months. Like, I'm on this one project for 7 months right now. But back at the brewery, I'll be working on 3 or 4 projects at once. So like, it was really nice to have that. I'm working on a film now, and then at lunch I'm going to be working on a TV show. And then before I log off for work, I've got to try an experiment out for a different TV show.
So does it mean that then you got quite a decent list of credits?
Yeah, I worked on a lot of shows, commercials. There's some commercials that I've worked on that I don't even know what brand it was for. I just did it and was like, okay, cool. I have no idea what was that for now. Because I worked with some fashion brands. But yeah, I got a big list of credits essentially from all these TV shows that we worked on. But generally, with TV, there's only a spot for 1 or 2 names. So generally, the boss always got the credit spot. But we did work on a lot of shows though.
And how long you spent in that brewery company?
I think it was about 1.5 years, really. Started when I was a student at Middlesex, and then essentially I worked up until the COVID pandemic happened. And essentially, once filming stopped because of COVID, we had future projects that we were supposed to be working on disappear because the show just got cancelled and delayed and stuff and postponed. We kept working remotely up until the point where it was just like, there's no more work to do. And it was getting to the point where the studio as well themselves were trying to scale back, trying to find ways to save on costs. So people were working 3 days a week and stuff like that. So that's kind of when I stopped working for them because we just, ran out of work essentially.
So what did you do then? Did you try to find a different job or do something different during the COVID?
Yeah, so when COVID happened, for the VFX industry, it was kind of really, because I was a junior compositor at this point. So a junior compositor, it's not easy for a junior compositor to get work. And if you're mid, if you're senior, it's a lot easier. But back then, when all the shoots kind of just finished up, there wasn't much VFX jobs going around because, nothing's been filmed. There's no shots to work on really. The whole industry kind of dried up almost. So essentially what I went to do is I joined Foundry, who is the people that make Nuke, and I was a software tester for Foundry on the Nuke team. So I did that. I think I did that for 2 years. It was a really different world of work that I was used to. I used to be doing creative stuff every day, compositing, doing grays, painting and roto. And then I went into software role where it was like, tickets, bugs, testing, bit of coding, Python, automated testing, completely different world to what I was used to.
So how did you find such a job? Because I assume that before you weren't really thinking about job like that, but you did it because of the circumstances.
Yes, exactly. So when I went to Foundry, there wasn't much work going around for compositors at that time. So that's why I took up the job at Foundry, because I was like, all right, I can do this. I had that interview and I really enjoyed people that I chatted to at Foundry. So essentially I went to Foundry 2020, I think. Yeah, 2020. Yeah, it was completely different, It was weird because, really the VFX industry and the whole world, when it comes to software and stuff, we don't really like to upgrade our software to the latest and greatest all the time. We like to just be a couple of years out. We don't really care about having the latest tools. We care about just having reliable tools to get the job done. And we know, okay, we can use this version of Nuke and we know it works fine and all our tools work fine with it. So it was weird to go from that side of it to completely latest and greatest, trying and looking into the future of VFX. I spent a lot of time working on a file format with Disney or Pixar called USD, Universal Scene Description. And I was just a person, testing the features for USD instead of Nuke, essentially, giving feedback, trying to improve it, essentially. And this was very weird. This was a feature that studios weren't really using yet. Some studios were, but some studios weren't. And even other programs that we used hadn't even had any features yet for it. So, it was a big difference. We working on the future VFX. We also worked on some prototypes as well. And It's a lot different. It's really cool because you are like looking at the future of VFX. You're going, okay, what can we do with this? What do people want? You're interviewing other studios, and you're kind of saying, imagine if you could just do X, Y, Z in there. They're like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. So yeah, it was a lot different than, working as an artist. It was definitely like a refreshing point in my career to try something different.
So then when the situation after COVID got kind of normal again, did you then apply again for a position in VFX?
Yeah, essentially, I worked at Foundry for like 2 years, and then it just kind of got to a point where, for myself, there wasn't much career progression for myself there. I was talking to my manager's like, we can look at doing senior QA. And I was just kind of, what is just quality assurance? And I don't really want to do this quality assurance stuff anymore. So, and at that time, the industry was opening back up again for business. So I applied for a bunch of jobs. I was a bit worried that I wouldn't get any work as well, just because we still had like a really basic show reel from a couple of years ago. But luckily, I think MPC took a chance on me, and I went to MPC for a bit, for I think it was like 5-6 months. It was my first job back in compositing. Going back to that role, I was a little bit nervous because I thought I forgot how to composite, and I did.
You forgot?
Yeah, a little bit. I started working my supervisor on my lead. It's like, hey, can you just do some green screen and do some keying? And I was like, yeah, sure. And they started working on it, and I was just like, I don't know how to do this anymore. Like 2 years ago, I would do keys easy. Now I was like, no idea what I'm doing. So it took a little bit of time to get the ball rolling again. But then after like the first month, because the first month was the hardest really, but it was just like that, it was fine. It had the whole compositor mindset was back, and I was just getting back to like concentrating on building my creative eye and looking for how do I make a shot look good? What can I do? How can I grade this asset better, kind of thing.
Yeah. So from MPC, you went to another company.
Decided to leave at MPC to go to REALTIME. I prefer working for smaller companies, smaller studios. These are like a mid-sized studio. I wouldn't say they're tiny, but they're not large at the same time. I just kind of thought, yeah, let's try it out. Let's see what it is. And I met the VFX supervisor there, and she pretty much persuaded me to join the company.
And did you like want to specifically join REALTIME, or was it like one of the companies that you wanted to join?
Yeah, so I put applications out to a bunch of companies, and I think a lot of the companies that I applied for, when I had interviews and I talked to them, it didn't seem like they wanted to put a risk in me, really. They were just like basic tasks, basic compositor stuff. And a lot of companies just didn't have that much exciting work. But then when I went to REALTIME, it was the type of work and the scope of projects were a lot more harder, complicated, instead of just simple, repetitive tasks. So, I wanted to take the risk, try to push myself a bit more further in my career. Plus, I'm not sure if you've seen any of the work they've done previously, but before going into uni, I saw some of the work they've done on, like, ever heard of a game called Smite?
No.
So they did this trailer for Smite, and it was so well done.
Yeah, cool. Can you tell us about some projects that you worked on? You don't have to say any specifics, but maybe some projects that come to your mind, maybe that were challenging, that you enjoyed, that you didn't enjoy.
Well, REALTIME or NPC, or my career in general?
Career in general.
So when I was at NPC, I worked on 2 Disney films. So I worked on Hocus Pocus 2, and I also worked on Disenchanted. Disenchanted was one of the projects that I really enjoyed doing, just because I just got given shots where it was just like purple magic everywhere, and it was just literally like really like crafted an image frame by frame. So I really had a lot of fun with just pushing myself in the compositing world at NPC, like with Disenchanted and stuff like that. It was really fun. And since I've been at REALTIME, 2 projects that have been published was Dance Monsters, like a mocap dance competition show. It was really fun. It was really challenging, so there's just this pure scale of that project. And I also worked at a nice little TV show called Nolly. It was like a nice kind of wholesome project. It wasn't one of those shows where it was like really technical and hard, but Nolly was a good project in the sense of just felt like really basic compositing tasks. but just trying to do the best job that you can with it and just being like, just kind of cracking on and just going back to your roots. But yeah, those are the recent projects I've been working on this year. Back at the brewery, I worked on a bunch of TV shows like The Plebs, English Game, was on Netflix. And we also worked in a Supra car commercial as well in Saudi Arabia. It was pretty cool.
And was there something challenging or hard for you?
Yeah, going back to Disenchanted probably was really challenging just because the supervisors really trying to push me as far as I could go with that shot. So it was one of those projects there where it was just a lot. I never had to deal with FX passes before and how to use them and how you can push them. And we had a lot of like really senior artists who also like showed me like how you can get these different lens effects. And yeah, it was just changing because as well, but yeah, it was really good technically and creatively, just trying to learn how to push myself in a lot of that, like not really realistic because it wasn't like really realistic effects, but pushing myself in that stylized, cartoony, but also just like lighting effects type work. Well, I really enjoyed having a lot of fun on.
And is there a dream project that you would want to work on, either specific film or TV series?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know what I really enjoy working on.
Or maybe specific filmmaker, like a director.
Yeah.
For the style.
I would have to say a Christopher Nolan film would be absolutely awesome, but he uses VFX a lot differently. But I think it would be really cool to work on one of his projects. I think it would be like, just insane. And that's kind of what I would want, like just a crazy, insane. We're trying to push the photorealism boundary, really. Those would be a really sick project.
Yeah, I can only agree. It will be a dream to be part of such a project.
Yeah.
I was wondering, can you share some advice from your career or from your experience for any either students of film or VFX or people who want to enter the industry?
Yeah. There's a lot of things I've learned growing up in this industry. I think the main thing I learned was like, how do you learn by yourself? Because the hardest thing about VFX is not the hardest thing, but one thing you really need to get drilled into your head is practice makes perfect. Now you can watch tutorials all day, you can read up all day, and that's good. You should be reading up, look at news, latest tech, any subject that you don't know. So as a compositor, like color space is something really important in color management. You should read into it and look into these technical aspects, but you're not going to learn by reading. You got to really do it and just keep on trying new things, record footage, work on projects. And sometimes just spend, one thing I have a really bad habit of, but I don't do a lot of personal work anymore because I'm so, I do so much work, there's so much time at work that I just don't have energy for it. But every now and then I'll have one of these nights where I'll work from, I don't know, like I'll start working on a project at like 8 a.m. because I'm like an owl. I like to work the night, and I'll work on the shot like with my programs like this and like stuff like that until I don't know 6, 7 a.m. just to get it rendered. Push yourself in that industry. If you want to go into compositing, you don't want to study at the university, or you do. I think it's really important to have another discipline under your belt as well as compositing. Compositing does require plates, renders, passes. So either learn compositing and a little bit of digital matte painting, or you can learn compositing with a little bit of 3D or like lighting and rendering, so you're able to generate your own scenes and stuff like that. That means you need to give yourself assets to play with. And yeah, just keep going for it, really. And I think as well, just look at reference when you're building your shots. And when you get to the point where you're applying for jobs, like I strongly recommend to people, like you want to see all the demo reels of everyone at your level when you're applying for your jobs. Like you need to know who you're competing with in the industry. Not competing, but it's not really compete, but you understand where the bar is for getting a job. Every company will have a different bar. Some bars will be lower, some bars will be way higher. But, it's really good just to look at demo reels because you'll get ideas from them and it will help you get your first job through the door. And networking is also very important as well. Just as soon as possible, reach out to creatives or like, people in the industry that you like. Ask for help in the sense of, hey, you got time to look at my shot? You need feedback? I'm more than sure people will be happy to help out. Like, I get messages from people asking about, how do I do X, Y, Z in Nuke, or, just like technical questions. And I'm more than happy to help out, because I was there, clueless and had no idea how things worked. So, there's nothing wrong with asking and discovering. The most important thing though with VFX is just have fun with it. That's the whole reason why we do it, is fun. And if it does get to a point where you're like, this is not fun anymore, this is a grind, then don't forget to have a break. This is not everything. VFX is supposed to be fun, creative. Yeah, sometimes we've got deliveries and clients to deal with, but if you're not having fun anymore, you should definitely have a break and take some time away from it. Most important thing, really.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. I can really agree. Do you want to promote yourself, or maybe where people can follow you?
Yeah, so the main thing I have really is just LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn as Nathan Stobbs. Probably say, compositor at REALTIME, something like that. Feel free to add me up, ask any questions if you need it. And yeah, that's it really.
Cool. I will add the links to the show notes, and I think we can finish then. So thank you. It was great to meet you, to speak with you after a while, finally.
Yeah, no, finally happened.
So yeah, thank you very much and wish you good luck in your career.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on here. It's been a pleasure and a great talk as well.
Thank you. Likewise, and speak with you soon.
Yeah, thank you, man. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Produced By. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app, leave a review, or send us your feedback. For more information about the host, links from the episode, and ways to connect with us, visit the show notes. If you know someone who would be an ideal guest for our podcast, please get in touch. Thank you and see you soon.